Achai Fuku.
Aji bam.
Maestro.
Oh, landlord.
The Maestro.
Landlord.
The Maestro.
Landlord.
The Maestro, if I come next 15 minutes, you're there. Why?
That's it, landlord. Mamencha said, Mamencha, one of our ardent viewers, a friend of Elom Jessica, or her is here, Accra. It's Elom, which church?
Elom Jessica.
Elom Jessica.
But not touch I guess.
Oh, say, or more, what, oh, say.
Sign up. I said, how you be saying?
Oh, there we go.
So we get a share also chill.
Oh, yes. So baby girl.
The Maestro.
Yeah. And I would say the old production. So my cousin friend, me Prince Lodro. I or friend or say no better. I saw a child.
Me genoso.
I saw a child. Oh, yeah,
O cousin is Dawson. Or Busi Amo Dawson.
Oh, yes.
You are so cousin be a baby child.
Oh, yes. I think so. Yeah, every cousin. Every cousin.
Right,
landlord, you didn't come kakra ewa hanum. I think say Oshe Funine that screen so now. It's all about I think say the Italian Serie A weekend action. You say over the weekend I mean a brief analysis about AC Milan and Torino.
Yeah.
And Kim Nukonewi and I think that Torino was able to score AC Milan by 2-1. And it is all because of Torino. Whenever you movie face AC Milan Biano, but problems it's set in. Now, if I can get that particular video on our screen, this is a video of the fans of AC Milan and then Torino. That happened in 2003. And after that particular match, Niama saying this year, this is the match at AC Milan, Eshe Torino. It was San Siro. And even at the home of Stadio Olimpico, it was Torino, Turin. And after this particular match, Niama saying the course of 2003, after that particular set match. Now, match way of course over the weekend. After that match, Torino fans can't say maybe AC Milan for ultras, telling them say when it comes to football, it is not about AC Milan, but then it is about Torino. There's a history to that. Prior to this particular history, we talk about the Italian Serie A quite first January year. When you go back in AD 230, that was the time the Roman Empire it may rise from the Greek Empire, or it may influence or from that particular era. And when you check about the kind of games normally was a source of entertainment, that time no more friend Herpestum. Herpestum was an advanced form of football. And at that time the ancient Greek was actually performing that football as their source of entertainment. So after the power struggle, a switch from the ancient Greek about the Roman Empire. For the ancient Greek it was called the fortnight. But they switched by the Roman Empire, it was not called the fortnight, but then it was called the Herpestum. After the Herpestum, in the mid-16th century, there was another influence of football, and it happened in England. When it happened there in England, the man friend the Herpestum, but then they call it medieval football. So Italians found it who say, friend the Herpestum under the Roman Empire, across other European countries. They are seeing it say, England for now, or rebranded, and they are doing it very well with them. Now they needed to get back their football back to Italian Serie A. And they know more you eating and so much adopt another name for the football, and no name someone adopt a particular name called the Calcio Fiorentino. That is the reason why enabling so Italian Serie A, they call it the Calcio Italian Serie A. That was the history. Now the Calcio Fiorentino was actually played in the city of Florence. At that time, in the mid-16th century, and Italians in your Madrid say they will rebrand from the medieval football in England and they will call it as the Calcio Fiorentino. But football advanced proper in Italy, and shall say in Milano, and shall say Juventus Turin, and shall say Torino Turin. The city of Turin is about Torino. Now the man on your screen is this particular reference, Eduardo Bossio. Okay. This is Eduardo Bossio, and Onona established the football club called Torino. The man established Torino, they said, he sat down and he was working at one of the textiles factory in Italy, Turin. This textile factory, England for the established that textile factory, in the later part of 1800s. Nobody established that textile factory. Established, and this man was a solely worker over there. Now, he studied these particular English people and told them, I said, these people, no football, no mope. So, medio mechi, na mako England, na mako suya football, me ba. In the city of Turin, I will establish my football club. It would Diomechi no muko England. When he went to England, he studied their football came back to the city of Turin and then established the Noble Torino in the later part of 1890s. When this man established the Noble Torino, a lot of people came on board to support Torino at that time because it was the only time when Oma established that particular football club. And they wanted to actually find some of the clubs who meet my partner in the 4-man championship in the Italian Serie A. Now, there was this particular man called Alessandro Ferrera. Ferrera was that particular man. Later on, rising to become the Italian FIFA Association president in Italy. When he rose to that particular level, or making sure so Eduardo Bosio, as the owner of Torino, that particular football club will rise to its prominence. So we check it back in the 1900s. When you were talking about football, it wasn't a certain AC Milan, it wasn't a certain Juventus, it wasn't Inter Milan, but football in Italy was about Torino, because the Torino fans and other people in Torino believe that when you talk about football, football is not AC Milan. Football is this particular football club called Torino. Now, there's another history. So we'll check it with Torino and then AC Milan. In the latter part of 1930s, and Torino for air rising to their perfection. In the latter part of 1934, 1938, and Torino for your first Scudetto title. On their way of winning that first Scudetto title, they were able to beat AC Milan in that particular way. Now, AC Milan, to the biggest win at Camille in the 1988-1989. At the time, Arrigo Sacchi was that kind of head coach for AC Milan. He won that particular game of Stadio di Olimpico di Torino by 6-0. But when you talk about the history between Torino and AC Milan, a quiet abysmal because of, say, in the 1948-1949 season, something happened in that particular season because this Torino team, Omo traveled the call Sporting Lisbon, wanting very well. So Omo a friendly match with Sporting Lisbon. Omo team that say goodbye to Sporting Lisbon. Omo captain Francisco Ferreira. Omo that say goodbye to him. It was Sporting Lisbon. Now, before Sombekono, Torino was leading the Italian Serie A. Now, 4 matches to the end of the season. When Torino Football Club, together with the staff, managers, 31 players, all nominally seated in the plane, Omo back to Torino. Ombe hated the Basilica Catholic. And also Torino. And Manipe 31 Omo aeroplane, except one particular player called Augusto Carlos. That hamstring injury to went to kindly be Anchor Sporting Lisbon. But before some ever play Nabano, AC Milan Ultras at that time, a catcher Torino fans and say, you for no call Sporting Lisbon, and they are going to play that game for Sporting Lisbon. Or Mumbrano, or now there's also maybe real league, 4 matches to the end of the season. Torino will lead that particular league, But as summer AC Milan for Ultras neck can a Camille said, AC Milan for no conspire against this particular team. That team there, it was called the Grand Torino. That was their nickname. It was called the Grand Torino because of, say, within that particular moment in time, they rose to that particular prominence and they were dominating in the Italian Serie A and they were dominating in all other competition. I'm finding myself in the Italian Serie A. This is Torino in 1949. There was a disaster, and the disaster that happened in 1949 was the Superga air gas disaster. You see here, 31 players of Torino, Omutimiko Hete, the Basilica Catholic Church, Torino, start playing the Dasono Mohiano, and me, see here, 31 players, So when it becomes crucial between AC Milan and Torino, they have history. The ultras of, the side of Torino, the Grenadiers, they don't actually side with the ultras of AC Milan. The moment fans Nibishia during the time of Torino against AC Milan Biano in Tokwa 18DC. Then you talk about the last 3 seasons, the consecutive times that Torino for it's dominating over AC Milan. It is actually superb because when we talk about the 3 seasons, 6 matches at hand, Torino has been able to win 3 wins on a successful row, with just 1 draw and 2 wins across Edama AC Milan. This is not the AC Milan Football Club by name, but when they go to Italy, they've actually formed the 7 Sisters Football Club. You talk about the AC Milan, talk about the Inter Milan, talk about Juventus, then you talk about Parma. Parma is a frame because right now, Parma is not able to rose to a dominant period within this particular short period of time. So Napoli for Nababeka home, I'm the 7 Sisters Football, it will Italy. Torino for whom say when we talk about 7 Sisters of football, mentioning Inter Milan, Juventus, AC Milan, and Roma, Fiorentina, and other people. No? They believe that they are the football in Italy. And when we talk about football, Eduardo Bosio, together with other players, they team set it up for Torino. But over the weekend, big match beat me Corso. That is against Chelsea and then Aston Villa. Now, let it be clear, say, Enzo Maresca is actually doing something now. To me,